always had pot, no matter how poor he was. They were both poor then, because they'd refused to take any of their stepfather's money, but Lila had gotten a full scholarship to a prestigious school, while Billy had embarked on his adventure to see America, funded by a string of jobs he hated. She took the box to the room that she was being kicked out of the next day. The dorms were already closed. Classes had ended weeks ago, but Lila had gotten special permission to remain until her summer camp teaching job began. Every year it was like that, piecing together a place to stay by begging favors from people who liked Lila and sympathized with her circumstances. Her parents were dead. Billy had forged the death certificates way back, when Lila first started applying for college, and her only relative, a brother, was traveling full-time for his company. "That's true, too," Billy had said. "I'm going to be traveling for my own company, and to avoid the company of the undead." Lila opened the box. On top, she found a baggie with 3 perfectly rolled joints and a note that said, "Do this in memory of me." Below that, a copy of Highlights for Children magazine, which Billy had probably ripped off from a doctor's office. On page 12, at the top of the cartoon, he'd written, "Billy equals gallant, Lila equals goofus." It was an old joke between them. Lila, the rule follower, had always been gallant, and Billy, the rebel, goofus. But in this particular comic strip, Gallant had brought a present to someone and Goofus was empty-handed. "Touché, bro," Lila thought, and smiled. Finally, underneath an insane number of foam peanuts was a large shoebox, which he'd made into a diorama. It was so intricate, worthy of any grade school prize, except Lila and Billy had never made dioramas in grade school, not that she could remember anyway. Her memories of her childhood were so fragmented that she sometimes felt those years had disappeared from her mind even as she'd lived them. Of course, she could always ask Billy what really happened. He remembered everything. Inside the shoebox, there were 2 houses made of broken popsicle sticks in front of a multicolored landscape, complete with purple clouds and a blue sky and a pink and yellow sun. The houses had tiny toothpick mailboxes to identify them. The one on the left was Lila's, and the one on the right Billy's. In Lila's house, a clay man and woman stood watch over a clay baby inside a lumpy clay crib. In Billy's house, a clay man and woman were sitting on the floor, smoking an obscenely large joint, but a clay baby was asleep in another room, on a mattress. Billy's house was dirtier, with straw floors and very little furniture, but it was still a house, and, most important, it was still next door to Lila's. They'd always planned on living next to each other when they were grown. Of course, whoever Billy married would love Lila, and whoever Lila married would love Billy. How could it be any other way? Lila knew something was wrong when she saw the note Billy had attached to the bottom of the diorama. "Don't worry, I haven't lost the plot. This won't change anything." She knew what the first sentence meant, since Billy had been saying this for years. But the second one was too cryptic to understand. Stranger still was how short the note was. Billy had been writing long letters from the time he could hold a crayon. He was a born writer. He'd already written dozens of stories when they were kids, and he was planning to start his novel on the road trip. Lila liked to imagine him writing in seedy hotels while she learned how to interpret novels in her English courses. She found out what he was telling her only a few days later, when he called to invite her to his wedding. He'd gotten a woman pregnant. Her name was Ashley, and she was 29, 8 years older than Lila and Billy. She was a waitress in a bar in Los Lunas, New Mexico. She didn't write novels or read them, but she claimed to think it was cool that Billy did. "He's got himself a real imagination, that boy," Ashley said and laughed. She and Lila were sitting on bar stools, waiting to drive to the Justice of the Peace with Billy and one of Ashley's friends. Lila tried not to hate her for that laugh, but from that point on, she couldn't help thinking of her as Trashly, though she never shared that fact with anyone, not even Patrick. 15 years later, she'd forgotten about the diorama until that night, watching Billy die on television. Then it came back to her, and she felt tears spring to her eyes because she didn't even know where it was. She told Patrick that she was going to the storage space in the basement of their building to find Billy's diorama first thing tomorrow. He gripped her hand more tightly. No doubt he thought she was in shock.